Hello, Cornerstone Church. Today we're on day 2 of our videos as we are looking at the last week of Christ's life. Yesterday we looked at Jesus entering Jerusalem and weeping over Jerusalem because of their unbelief. And then he goes in with a whip and chases all the money changers out of the temple because they were dishonoring his Father. So we saw the emotions of Jesus from extreme sadness to righteous anger against the unbelievers. Today we're going to look at Matthew 25. In Matthew's account of the last week of Christ's life, a lot of teaching. Chapter 21 to 25, Jesus presents parables about who he is, what's going to happen in the future. Matthew 24 and 25 is all about the second coming. It's interesting that Jesus, before he dies, teaches about the second coming. And so he's going to die, be buried, rise again, and ascend to heaven. And what he wants to teach his disciples is what's going to happen much later when he comes back a second time. So it is apparent that Jesus wants his followers to understand how to live between the resurrection and the second coming. So that's the point of the parables in chapter 25. There's 3 of them. Actually, I think 2 are parables. I think 1 is more straightforward teaching. I'm just going to quickly summarize them and give you a point. The first parable is the parable of the virgins. This is around a wedding. So Jesus gives this story of a bridegroom coming, and there's 10 virgins who are like the attendants, maybe like maid of honors today. And they're waiting for the bridegroom to come, and they all have oil lamps. 5 are foolish, 5 are wise. The 5 wise have extra oil. The 5 foolish do not have extra oil. The bridegroom delays. The virgins all fall asleep. But when they all wake up because the bridegroom's coming, the 5 wise light their lamps and they have extra oil as the bridegroom comes. Well, the 5 foolish ran out of oil. They have to go buy some. And so listen to Jesus' words, or rather listen to the bridegroom's words, which represents Jesus' words at this point, to these foolish virgins. And while they were going to buy the oil, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was shut. Afterward, the other virgins came also, saying, "Lord, Lord, open to us." But he answered, this is sobering, "Truly I say to you, I do not know you." Now here's Jesus' summary to his disciples. "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour." Jesus wanted his disciples to understand that when I go and ascend to heaven, I'm sending you out into the world. And I'm going to come back someday. So you go be faithful. Be like the wise virgins. But be watchful. Always be alert. Don't be presumptuous about your relationship with me. And do not be presumptuous about what the future holds. Be watchful. There's the first lesson for us Jesus wants to give to us days before he's crucified. The second one comes in the parable of the talents. I'm going to tell you this one real quick. Talents are coins. So imagine this. A master of the house, Jesus says, gives his 3 servants money before he takes off on a trip. He gives to one 5 talents, one 2 talents, and one 1 talent. And while he's gone, the one that had 5 talents doubled it. He invested it and doubled it. The one that had 2 talents, 2 or 3? It's 2 talents. Sorry about that. He doubled it. The one that had 1 talent was fearful, so he buried it in the ground and didn't do anything with it. Then when the master comes back, the one that has 5 talents comes, "Hey, here's 10, master. I've doubled your money." The master says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." The one that has 2, "Master, I've doubled your money." "Well done, good and faithful servant." You see, what was given to them, they put to use. The talents, which is interesting, our word talent refers to abilities. In this case, talent refers to money. But I think it's a great bridge to us. God has given us gifts. God has given us abilities that he wants us to use while he is in heaven waiting to come back the second time. As we represent him here on earth, we need to be busy about using the talents and gifts and skills in the relationships he has given to us. But the one that buried it did not receive a good word from his master. In the end, this is what he said to him: "You lazy servant. Why didn't you just put it in the bank at least and earn some interest for me?" And in the end, he says this: "Cast that worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Once again, be faithful with what he's given us. And do not be presumptuous on your relationship with Christ. What's proof you actually belong to Jesus? Proof is that you are active in what he's called you to do, active in who's called you to be, using the gifts and talents he's given you while we're waiting for him to come back. Jesus wants his disciples to understand this before he goes to the cross. The last one is one of my favorites. It's called the sheep and the goats. Jesus doesn't really do a parable this time. He says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory. So Jesus always talks about himself in Matthew as the Son of Man. When the Son of Man comes in his glory, he's going to gather all the nations together before him. And he's going to separate them like the sheep and the goats. And then the sheep he pulls up to him. And he says to you, well done. Listen to what he says. He says, then the king will say to those on his right, which is the sheep, come, you who are blessed by my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you before the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me food. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and welcome you, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and visit you? Then the king will answer them, truly I say to you, as you did it to one of the least of these my brothers, you did it to me. He looks at the goats and says the exact opposite to them. You did not do these things. And again, to them, into outer darkness you go. But to the faithful sheep, welcome into the kingdom of my Father. Again, the lesson for us is, do we care about the things that break Jesus' heart? Do we care about the things that he cares about? Do we care about the downtrodden? Do we care about the lonely? Do we care about those who have received injustice from our world? Are we ministering to them? James talks about this in chapter 1, that the epitome of religion is to keep oneself unstained by the world and to help widows and orphans in their distress. Do we do things for people that cannot pay us back? That's the point here. That's proof you know the King. Proof you know the King is you are busy serving him, using the talents he gave you. You are not presumptuous on your relationship, but you are alert, waiting for him to return. And while you're waiting for him to return, we are busy doing his will, which is loving and serving our neighbor. We're coming back to that a lot this time during this virus. Loving and serving our neighbor. So these are words Jesus brought to his disciples before he goes to the cross, when in fact the application of them is after the resurrection, before his second coming. Give a lot of thought to Matthew 25. Read it today. Open it and read it and think about the 10 virgins and being ready. The talents, and are we using the gifts he's given us? And then lastly, the sheep and the goats. Do we have the heart of our Savior for the hurt and lost? We'll talk again tomorrow.